What's up, guys? It's Addy here, back with another video, and it's been so long, and I apologize for that, but I'm here, I'm back, I'm ready to go, and yeah, I'm just really psyched for this upcoming NBA season. I got a lot to talk about, and I've just had so much going on. I'd been out of my hometown for the past like month at this thing, and now I'm back, and I have a chance to make some videos, so I'm really happy for that. Let me just show out the layout of this game right now. Huge news. Hassan Whiteside might be getting traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Tristan Thompson and Kyle Korver maybe. For now, I just used Tristan Thompson. As you can see, Colin Sexton is also in the lineup. And for the Rockets, they have agreed to sign Carmelo Anthony. So I'm just going to be talking about both those situations and, basically what I think for either side and how both sides can benefit, and mainly focusing on the Hassan Whiteside trade because I think that's pretty huge. And I'm glad that the Cavs, they're recovering from LeBron leaving, and they must have known this is a possibility. So it's good to know that they're thinking about the future. They signed Kevin Love, which some people did not agree with them doing that, especially for Love perspective. They thought that he should not be re-signing, but I think it's great. I mean, I don't think that the past 3 or 4 years he's been utilized the way he should have been. I think he's a fantastic player. He was fantastic in Minnesota, being argued as one of the best power forwards at that time, and then now he kind of just died out. So I think he can be an all-star caliber player who's leading a team. Just him on the squad with the rest of the team. I don't know if they're a playoff contender, but I want to say that if Hassan Whiteside gets on this squad and they don't lose way too much, they could possibly be a playoff team. The East is obviously known to be weaker, and thinking about that from that perspective, there aren't a lot of teams that are super competitive. So if you add another all-star type player in Hassan Whiteside, you're only making yourself better. And Tristan Thompson, he had some issues with Draymond Green, and he's not the great shooter that you want him to be, and he's not the best rim protector. He's a great offensive rebounder, but to me, that's like his only best quality. So other than I guess just being in the paint and getting like rebounds for uh, offensive boards, whatever. But like, I don't think that he's super vital to their team. And if they try to get rid of him and get someone like Hassan Whiteside, that could be really good for them. And they're coming off a big loss. They lost to the Warriors, then they lost LeBron James. How do you come back from that? And I'm glad to see that the GM and everybody, they're trying to get something going again. They got a great draft pick. I think Colin Sexton is going to be one of the better players out of the draft. I liked what he did in college, and I think he's only going to make them better. And he's got a lot of potential there. So that's a great signing that they did. Good thing they didn't trade that away. I wanted them, I thought if LeBron's going to leave, I wanted them to take that pick. If they could have used that to save LeBron and trade for someone else with that pick, that would have been better. But since they lost LeBron, might as well just use that pick and get someone that you kind of need. They do need a point guard that is young, kind of like Kyrie. He has similar qualities to Kyrie, but I think he's a great defender, and he just adds a lot of versatility to your team. So adding a good guard like that, that's great. They still got some okay role players, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver. They didn't perform in the finals is a different question, but just looking at the roster, it's not terrible. So they could scrap together a team that goes to the playoffs. In my opinion, there's some teams that are definitely going to make it, like Milwaukee, Boston, the Wizards for sure will make it. Toronto will make it. There's like 4 or 5 teams that are guaranteed, but some of those lower spots like Detroit, you could try to edge them out, and it's possible. Even though I think Detroit is going to be a pretty good team this year, I think they could trump Detroit if they get a guy like Hassan Whiteside. And there's some this false standings, mock standings for next year's playoffs that are already out, and obviously Cleveland's not in them. Some of them, Cleveland's like 6 or 4. I think it was ESPN's that I saw, but honestly, I don't think they'll be that high. But if they can work something out like that, where they can try to scrap up to like eighth seed or something. It'll be good for them to stay in the playoffs because they're not going to be the worst team in the East. They're not going to be like Hornets bad or Brooklyn bad. They'll be pretty good, I think, if they keep the roster that they have, and they don't, do a trade that messes everything up. I think they still have like Rodney Hood, J.R. Smith, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance. It's not a terrible squad. It's pretty good. If you're looking in the East, it does look like a playoff team. Of course, they took a lot of bad, like negative feedback when they lost to the Warriors and nobody showed up. But I still think this squad has what it takes to get to the playoffs. So adding Hassan is a great option for them. And in terms of Miami, they had issues with him already. They were giving him limited minutes in the playoffs. He wasn't happy about that. So if they can get a guy like Tristan Thompson, maybe get like a draft pick in the mix too, it'd be good for Miami. They're probably a playoff team anyway, so they gotta find a way to not lose too much for Hassan. I personally really like Hassan Whiteside. In terms of a solid center down low, is something you really need. He's a fantastic shot blocker, and he's just a force in the paint. So personally, I don't see why Miami has issues with Hassan Whiteside, but if they can get something good out of it, Tristan Thompson might be what they're looking for as well. Whiteside's not the best shooter, and if they can find some draft picks, maybe get Kyle Korver, like another role player or a three-point shooter out of it, maybe that's what they're looking for, another wing or another guard that can shoot threes, play defense, that kind of thing. Maybe they're looking for J.R. Smith. Maybe they want another big man like Larry Nance, who can kind of dunk it up, and he's very athletic. So maybe Rodney Hood, who is fantastic in Utah and then kind of lost his way in Cleveland because he didn't get the chance. So I think adding, I really think Kevin Love's going to have a breakout season next year, kind of a comeback situation because he's been gone for so long and undermined for so long. Finally, he's got a team where, they're kind of relying on him to have a good season, or like he's got to have a 22 plus point season or it's going to be pretty bad because, Colin Sexton, I presume he'll get like 11 to 12 points a game, maybe, depending on how many minutes he's given. If he starts, probably 11 to 12. But he'd be solid on the defensive end. But, JR, all those guys, they'll be fantastic. But you need a guy who's scoring at least like 22, 23 points a game to really be considered like a playoff team. You need someone leading the way. So I think Kevin can do that. And then you add in Hassan Whiteside. He'll be solid in the paint, really help out their defense. And they'll become a good defensive force, which the Cavs aren't really known to be in the past, but now they got a good defensive guard in Colin Sexton. They add in a great defender, probably one of the top center defenders in the league. Hassan Whiteside is fantastic, great shot blocker, just all right, like downright perfect in the paint. So if you want a guy like that, that'll be perfect for them as well. And he's a good scorer, he's a good rebounder. He can do putback dunks. He's athletic. It all works out for them completely. So personally, I think this trade will be fantastic if they don't lose too much. It depends on which point you're looking at it from. For Miami, I would say try to get as much as you can out of it, but not too much. Obviously, don't ask for like Kevin Love or Colin Sexton, but you can try to get maybe George Hill, Kyle Korver. There's a lot of guys that are on the same role player type level that you could try to get, and like J.R. Smith, anybody you're trying to get, they're probably trying to get like Tristan Thompson, another guy or something like that. So, and if you're from Cleveland's perspective, then try to give up as least as possible because Hassan Whiteside's pretty solid if you use him the right way, and if you give him the minutes, let him do his thing down low. I think it's a fantastic trade for either side and a great way for Cleveland to bounce back. Moving on to Carmelo and the Rockets. This has taken a lot of heat, personally. I've seen things all over the internet about how terrible Carmelo is going to be for any team that he goes to. He made a lot of money with Atlanta, but he did not play there. And I saw that they actually gave him a jersey for that. He made like $25 million off Atlanta, I'm pretty sure. But, I'm glad OKC was found a good trade with Dennis Schroeder in it. But, Carmelo, to me personally, I've never had any issues against Carmelo. I think he's a solid, great player. I know he's got a lot of other issues like passing or whatever. But a lot of people just have personal grudges with him, which I think is kind of irrelevant. I think he was a great player in New York, and yeah, he shoots the ball a lot, but he's just that kind of player, and he's a good scorer. I mean, having him on his team, I don't see why it would hurt them at all. If he can find a way. To make his game more solid in the passing end, I think he's going to be a great fit for the Rockets. I thought he was a good fit for the OKC Thunder. It was their first season, and they gave up on him, which I don't think was the right choice, but I'm glad they got Dennis Schroeder. But if I was OKC, I would have kept him. Every big three has some sort of issue when it starts out. And when they got Carmelo and Paul George and they had Westbrook, it all seemed like this is going to be perfect and they're going to be better than the Warriors and all that. But they just gave him like one season, and there was no gelling there. Paul George was not able to play like Paul George. Carmelo was not able to play like old Carmelo. You got to give it time. Westbrook was there. He played solid because he's been there. He knows the crowd. He knows the arena. He knows the players that were already on the team. He's well with Steven Adams. He knows. He just knows the team very well. And then you go and add new players. You can't expect them to just go in and play like they were. There's a certain learning aspect to it, and I think Houston's been able to play so well with Chris Paul and James Harden, and I give that credit to Chris Paul. He's just that kind of player, and I think Harden's also not very selfish with the ball, and if he is, it's because he's good, and sometimes you gotta just accept that he hogs the ball because he's good. And Chris Paul, I think he knows that. He knows that he's got more of an older role. He knows that he's got to be that facilitator, and he does it really well. James Harden's also not a bad passer. He's led the league in passing before. He's a great passer. He can pass 10 assists per game. It's not like that, but when he needs to turn it on and hog the ball, he can also do that. So when you're going into a team like that, I think first off, he's already got good chemistry with Chris Paul. Talking about Carmelo Anthony here, but he's already got good chemistry with Chris Paul. They had that whole banana boat thing, but I'm glad that they're at least two of them are reuniting. Instead of like all of them, although Dwayne Wade could possibly join them as well. But that's another story. But I think they're going to have great chemistry. I like Chris Paul with Carmelo Anthony. I think he knows going into this that there's a lot of heat and that he's got to play more aggressively but become a better passer. And I think Houston's chemistry and environment just makes them a good passing team. And I think this is a great spot for him to just go in and just outright score. He doesn't have to be the passer. They've got two good passers in their guards. Chris Paul is a great passer, one of the best passers of all time. And James Harden's shown that he can be a good passer. He was on the Rockets when there was no other star. It was just him, and he was a great passer back then. So he doesn't have to be the main passer either. But there's two good guys who can assist, so Carmelo can just go in there, catch and shoot, do his thing 1v1, and he can score. And I think this is going to be a great bounce back season for him because he's just good in those situations. In New York, he didn't really pass, he didn't really do much, he just kind of shot, and he put up great numbers. He had solid numbers. He could have breakout games that were like 40 plus, because he's just that kind of player. He's a scorer. So adding him to the team, I think it's fantastic, and it only brings them closer to a team like the Warriors, in my opinion. I mean, there's chemistry to that as well, and maybe they won't gel perfectly the first season. I think every time you add a new player or make a new big three, you got to give it a little time, but I think this kind of finishes their big three in Houston now. They got a great big three in James Harden, who's the MVP, Chris Paul, who's just one of the best all-around players in the NBA, one of the best passers. He can assist and he can score. He can take it 1v1. He can pass the ball out. He's just that kind of player. And then you got Carmelo, who's just a great scorer, and he's got some revenge to take. There's some bad stuff against his name now, and he's got to kind of take revenge on that. So I think this is going to be a great season for Carmelo as well, because he's going to be less aggressive on making mistakes, but I think he'll be a more aggressive scorer because he's got to show that he can can put up those numbers apparently. Because last season, I thought he was pretty solid, like 16, 17 points a game when you're the third option on the team. I think that's great, but apparently that wasn't good enough for all the critics. So to me, I think Carmelo is going to be a great fit for this team, and this has only made them better and only made them closer to the Warriors, which personally I love to see. So yeah, I mean, basically that's it. I think this is a great situation for both sides. For Carmelo, it's a way to restart. It's a way for him to get back in there and put up good numbers. And for Houston, they get a guy who can probably give you 30 points once in a while, 20 points a night maybe, depending on how many minutes he gets, how many times he touches the ball. And if they let him play like Carmelo, this could be a great situation for them because he's trying to bounce back. He's trying to have a better season, and he can be a great scorer. So I think this past season was not a good reflection on what Carmelo can be, and I think there's a lot of great basketball left to watch, basically. I mean, it's all up to watching now. This season's going to really prove a lot, and, that's all we can hope for. But going back to Cleveland, Hassan Whiteside is a great player, and I don't understand again why Miami has such issues with him. But I think this could work out better for the Cavs. Hassan is trying to get out of Miami. He's made that pretty clear because he was very unhappy with the minutes he was getting, and now if he goes to a team like the Cavs, there's no other big man for him to fight against. He'll get tremendous amounts of minutes, and he's got a good, duo with Kevin Love. They can make a good 1-2 punch in the paint, and I think Kevin Love's also going to have a good breakout season because he also used to be a fantastic player that came to the Cavs and was not able to put up the points that he was able to before. So this is a good scenario for both teams in both situations, for the Rockets and for Cleveland. I mean, they're both trying to get better. From Cleveland's perspective, I really, really like this, and I'm glad that they're, bouncing back from LeBron and making trades like this it'll only make them be better because in the East, it's all about getting decent. You got to get decent players that are, all-star caliber, but also benefiting your team. And I think he perfectly fits that category. He's going to make your team better defensively, and he's also going to probably be an all-star next year. If he can put up good minutes, he has been an all-star in the past, and Kevin Love will definitely be an all-star if he can put up good minutes. I expect a lot from Kevin next year, and same with Carmelo. So, yeah. That's basically all I have anyway, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, peace.